Hola, ¿qué tal amigos, amigas de Raíz? Ya estamos nuevamente en otro episodio de Qué Hacer. Y para ello el día de hoy tenemos a una invitada de lujo. Ella es Medea Benjamin, se conecta con nosotros y nosotras desde Washington DC, 3 veces nominada al Premio Nobel de la Paz, cofundadora de la organización en contra de la guerra Código Rosa, Code Pink. Y bueno, sin más, bienvenida querida Medea aquí a este espacio en Qué Hacer.
Thank you for having me on, Alina. Always good to be with you, even in these very difficult times.
Y bueno, para comenzar, me gustaría empezar preguntándote cómo llegamos a este punto que se está viviendo en la Franja de Gaza, en donde apenas 2 semanas han sido asesinadas más de 5,000 personas, más de 1,000 de ellas y ellos niñas. ¿Cómo podemos explicar el día de hoy la Franja de Gaza?
I think we can explain it by saying that the U.S. and the West has allowed Israel to carry on with these policies of oppression since the founding of the State of Israel, and even has allowed Israel to make a two-state solution impossible by creating more and more settlements and by turning Gaza into a type of concentration camp where there is no possibility for the people there to lead normal lives, and a level of hope and despair that we can only imagine. And so when we allow this to happen, and day by day, the people in the West Bank and the people in Gaza recognize that the world is not going to hold Israel accountable. On the contrary, in the United States, we continue to send Israel almost $4 billion every year to keep building up its military. This leads inevitably to rebellion and the kind of attacks that we saw Hamas carry out on October 7th.
Y bueno, Medea, también hemos visto muchas movilizaciones en todo Estados Unidos, pero ¿por qué incluso cuando hay cientos de miles en las calles, por qué, Medea, Estados Unidos no deja de financiar al Estado de Israel?
Well, it's a very great question, and we have to question whether the United States is really a democracy. Despite the very one-sided view we get from our mainstream media, the opinion polls show that 66% of the American people want a ceasefire. And yet here in Congress, where I am right now, and have been walking the halls of Congress every day for the last 2 weeks, we only have 29 members out of 535, or less than 5% of Congress, that is calling for a ceasefire, which is the bare minimum to stop all the death that's happening every single day. Why is that? Well, there's a strong pro-Israel lobby in the United States. On the side of the Democratic Party, there's fear of being out of step with the president on this issue. And then there is a general sense of Israel is a U.S. ally, and they have the right to go after Hamas. And if we call for a ceasefire, then we're saying that they can't continue to track down the Hamas fighters. So it's a combination of issues, but I would say in general, it shows that we, the US people, are not being represented by our Congress. On the contrary, they're just about to vote on $14 more billion, in addition to all the billions we give every year, more money for Israel, which is not what the majority of American people want.
Medea, hemos visto durante las últimas semanas que los medios corporativos mayoritariamente o exclusivamente han puesto solo la visión de los hechos según lo que dice el Estado de Israel. ¿Qué piensas de esta cobertura que han hecho medios como I-24, la BBC y CNN?
I think it's terrible. The only TV station I listen to now is Al Jazeera on this, because the other stations that I get are just too hard to listen to. They are propagating lies, disinformation. They show the tremendous suffering of the Israelis, which we have to acknowledge, but they have always acted like Palestinian lies don't matter. This is nothing new in the US media, but now it's so pronounced. And when the American people don't get to see the horrific suffering that's going on every day in Palestine, they are being misinformed by the media. And then there's always the way that the media is putting on pro-Israel views, the way the media talks about things like the bombing of the hospital that happened recently to say that it was done by the Palestinians themselves, the lie about the 40 babies' heads being cut off. I mean, these things, even when the administration comes back and says they never saw proof of that, the lie is out there. The image in people's minds is out there. So the mainstream media has done a tremendous disservice to not only the people of Palestine who are suffering so greatly, but to the American people who really don't have a chance to fully understand that our government is complicit in genocide. And this is going to come back to bite us as Americans. We're not going to be able to travel around the Middle East without fear. We're not going to be seen in many places around the world as allies. We're going to be seen as enemies. We're going to be seen as genocide enablers, which we are.
Medea, tú has sido nominada 3 veces al Premio Nobel de la Paz, eres una ferviente activista contra la guerra y además eres una judía progresista. Quiero preguntarte sobre la campaña de desinformación a escala global que hay en torno al movimiento que sale hoy a las calles en el mundo diciendo que es un movimiento antijudíos, es decir, antisemita, que esto es solo para apoyar los ataques de Hamas. ¿Qué puedes decir tú como una judía progresista en Estados Unidos que ha estado protestando por varios años contra las guerras, especialmente las guerras de Estados Unidos en diversos territorios?
I'm not only a U.S. citizen, but I am also of Jewish faith. And I have seen for years how Israel has become more and more of an oppressive state. I've been to Gaza 7 times. I've met with members of Hamas who warmly welcomed us as Americans, as Jews, and reiterated over and over, we are not against Jewish people, we are against Zionism. They have also had tried to have openings over the years to the Bush administration, to Obama. In fact, they sent a letter with us once to take back to Obama saying, we want to talk to you. We want to have normal relations. And they were always rebuffed. And of course, we know that the Palestinian people and the people of Gaza have tried so many different tactics, nonviolent tactics, like boycott, divestment, and sanctions, or like the Great March of Return in 2018, where they would go every week to the border with Israel non-violently and got shot as journalists, as medics, as students. So I think it's important for people to understand that this uprising is against Zionism, not against Jewish people.
Y la última pregunta, Medea, es ¿qué hacer? ¿Qué podemos hacer en el resto del mundo?
Well, I think the world community is key to this and is having a lot of impact on putting pressure on Israel. I think this is one of the reasons that there's been a delay in the ground invasion. And I think that the international pressure must be kept up. We're seeing it at the United Nations. We're seeing it by heads of state, such as the wonderful head of state in Mexico, who's been so clear on this issue. We're seeing it from the people who are out in the streets, and these demonstrations all over the world, including Mexico City, are so heartwarming. And it's this kind of international pressure, I think, that it is the only thing that can stop the Israeli government. And as bad as things are now, I mean, just yesterday, 700 people were killed. As horrific as things are now, there is a real danger of a regional war breaking out that would be so catastrophic for the entire region and for the global community. So we have to keep getting out on the streets, keep the pressure on.
Pues muchísimas gracias, Medea, por estar el día de hoy con nosotros y nosotras. Y muchas gracias a todas y todos por acompañarnos en otro episodio de Qué Hacer aquí en The Raíz.